This is Studio 809 Podcasts, informing, connecting, and empowering the residents of the Pikes Peak region.
Binlow Season 2 is sponsored by Black Packers, economic equity in outdoor education and recreation.
This is badly needed and long overdue, a controversial podcast about Colorado Springs. It's controversial because it makes sense. I'm your host, Nick Raven. How you doing? I'm actually pretty close to the Cottonwood Center for the Arts. I'm here for the Colorado Film and Media Industry Town Hall that is apparently happening across like 7 or 8 cities across town. So that's dope. We're in our second to last episode for the season 2. We only have one more episode after this. So this episode, we're going to be having a conversation, a very impassioned one, with John Jarrell, the chair of the El Paso County Democratic Party. It is a very, very in-depth, very insightful conversation. I'd wanted to get John on the tape a couple years ago, actually. And didn't work out, scheduling, communication, whatever it was. But now that he's chair, the head of the party, that's pretty dope. So it's a long we cover so much stuff about getting into the party, the value of the party, the argument against creating third parties for disappointed, runners-up candidates for different this and that's. This is just it's such an exciting conversation. So I hope you check it out, and I haven't plugged it yet, really weirdly, but like and subscribe, wherever you're listening to this. Subscribe to the podcast, give it a drop a review, stuff like that. Let me know how the show's going, because I kind of hear afterward and that, but I want to hear your thoughts on that. So here's a conversation with John Jarrell, the chair of the El Paso County Democratic Party. But first, let's pay the bills. We'll be right back after that. Boom. Let's go.
The Nth Review. Do you like video games? What about multi-hour deep dives into how video games work? Of course you do! It's time you come check out what 22,000 other subscribers have already discovered. A whole bunch of delicious content about mechanics, immersive sims, action games, open world stuff, and why we play and enjoy games in video essays you can cook dinner to. Check it out at youtube.com/Nth Review. And be sure to check out my newest review for Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, a revisit of the classic immersive sim, coming out soon. If you'd like to place an ad on Binlow, send an email to badlyneededpodcast@gmail.com and get your business, campaign, or message prominently featured on this beautiful, glittering podcast. Now, onto the conversation. John Jarrell, welcome to this little program that we do here. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. How's your day? It's not going to matter anything at all in December, but it is drizzly and wet. Yeah, apparently it's getting to the 90s next week. So
this is one of the first truly fall days of the first one of the year. So if you're watching this in December and you can remember this day, that first cloudy, rainy, 60-degree day, that is the day we're recording this.
We're going to get into some heavy stuff, but are you a fall dude? Are you the tree color changing?
Not so much the color changing, but I do appreciate the temperature changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have air conditioning in my house. I haven't in the 12 years I've lived in Colorado Springs. I've never had air conditioning. So having the summer end is always nice and noticeable.
So speaking of climate change, when I moved here, no houses had AC. We definitely didn't have AC either, and we'd swelter in the summer, but it was only for a month or something. But now it seems increasingly mandatory that if you're going to live here, you're going to need that for a bit longer, even though we don't hit the triple-digit heat like sometimes we would do.
Yeah, I think the temperature is changing around here. I personally think it's hard to attribute that to climate change because, the variation that occurs even without global rises in temperatures is part of what makes that science so complicated.
How long have you been here?
12 years.
12 years. Okay. Yeah, because I remember the late 90s and we would have blizzards.
Yeah.
Blizzard. It just gets wet here now. And it's hard to okay. It gets wet.
Yeah, it does sound like the climate here has changed.
Yeah.
But again, I just don't know that we can attribute
broadly to that.
To the couple degree increase in temperature on the global scale.
Because it's so minute.
Well, it's very complicated science.
It is.
Yeah, a lot of chaos involved in it, and even if the global temperature stayed the same, we would still see shifts.
Yeah.
But with all that being said, that's part of why climate change is so frightening because we know how sensitive the system is to small changes over the long term, and we could see. I mean, we're not trying to defend climate science here, I don't think.
Climate change or anthropomorphic climate change, yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's frightening, and I would say those small changes that we see with no global change in temperature are a reminder of just how much things can change, how we could see areas that are currently getting rain, lose that, and other areas would suddenly become better for farming and producing agriculture, but then we have to shift to accommodate for that,
right?
And all of that will be really bad.
So we're going to be nomadic or something?
No, we're not going to be nomadic, but we're going to see the price of food go up. I mean, we know that for sure.
No,
I would say
that's true. Yeah, or some foods just not existing anymore, or becoming rare.
Yeah, becoming more expensive.
Yeah, like the chicken. We're going to be paying $20 a pound for that.
Yeah,
I don't know how much.
The egg prices finally went back down, though, huh?
Thanks, Trump.
Well, see, that's another example, though, of how complicated these systems are because, the chicken's getting sick and not laying as many eggs, well, because they were cold. But not laying as many eggs increases the price of eggs. And that's going to have way more of an immediate effect than anything the president can do, right?
Yeah.
So,
the switches.
The world's a complicated place.
Speaking of complicated places, what does the chair of a local political party do?
Well, that depends who the chair is, I suppose. But the things that we do as the El Paso County Democratic Party is we oversee. Well, we have some legal responsibilities, so we oversee some of the selection process for candidates. It's like caucus and assembly. Which will be actually shortly after this episode airs, probably beginning in March. Caucus and assembly is the first step that people have, the community has, in selecting who the Democratic candidates are going to be in the general election November. Yeah. After this episode.
But even before you get to that point, you're seeding for hey, do you want to run? Who's going to step up for this? That kind of slate building.
Maybe. So, I mean, it all depends. It depends on the race.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the races we have candidates.
Yeah.
And they're sort of locked in. And of course, if someone were to try to run against them, that's fine. That's fair. That's the way the system works. But so, for example, as of right now, when we were recording this, we have Steph Vigil again running for House District 16. We knew that she was going to run. There wasn't really a need. Even though that's a very winnable seat now, as she proved a few years ago, there wasn't a need there for the recruitment. So it all depends. I mean,
I'm in HD 22, and Michael Pearson is stepping up for that. But that is a hard district to win in the best case scenario. So you're not even Michael, even though he's announced in a similar district, you'd be like, hey, who wants to be on here? Who wants to run over here?
Yeah. So would I have done recruitment for House District 22 if Michael Pearson hadn't stepped up? I mean, it depends, right? On what the framework looks like. I will say though that House District 22, despite how difficult of a race it is, it's in a now key location given its overlap with one of our most important seats, which is County Commissioner District 5.
Yes.
Which, we have 3 candidates running in for that primary. Again, no need to recruit for that race either. We've got 3.
Yeah, Jax, Christian, and
Yolanda just announced.
Okay.
A couple days ago. Yolanda Avila.
All right. Yeah. So that'll be old news by the time.
Yeah,
but it's still for the sake of it, it's like,
it was
that's
this week.
Cool.
Right, it was this week.
That's cool. Finally a competitive county commissioner seat.
Right. Yeah. So we had that one redrawn. Well, that one is really fun to think about, look back on. It was one of our most decisive victories over the Republicans here. And that was because the county commissioners have all been Republicans since the 1970s, when we went to a system where we had 5 of them. And the system is set up so that they get to draw their districts.
Yeah.
Right. And so since the 70s, every time we've made gains, especially in County Commissioner 3, they've tweaked it so that it's just a little bit out of reach. And then a law got passed, actually, with the help of Steph Feehill, who we're going to get back in, assuming there's no primary by the time this comes out.
Sure.
Otherwise, then they're both great candidates.
Of course.
In that case.
all 5 of them that just popped up out of it.
Right, exactly. But the law did create some rules for the county commissioners. Now, they still, in the end, got to draw the districts themselves. It's actually pretty silly, because the original idea was there would be an independent commission.
Yeah.
And while there still is technically a commission that's created that is not the same legal body as the Board of County Commissioners, they can just name themselves that commission. So it's like we created an independent commission that consists of only us drawing these lines. And they have the choice, of course, to allow that commission to truly be independent, have a selection process and all of that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if they had done that, and if they had drawn the districts fairly, we would have 2 seats that we would have won one last year, and we'd be looking to flip this one this year. So I understand.
So it's kind of like ungerrymandering
it would have been
the slices. Yeah.
But in this one particular case, though, one of the rules that they did have to follow, even as their own commission, is they had to follow the Voting Rights Acts, which, were not of the 1960s, which were not legally enforceable at the county level prior. So like racial gerrymandering was technically legal. It was no longer legal. So we were able to show using census data, and maybe I should send you the image and you can pop that up on the screen.
Sure.
It's pretty striking.
Yeah.
When you do a heat map of non-white populations, and so you put that heat map up there, and then you look at where the 3 county commissioner districts intersected. It was right in the middle of this pocket of what we called Southeast Colorado Springs.
And that's
right?
Crucial to when you are gerrymandering a district, is you want to split that population up so that they are then a minority in any other seat.
Cracking and packing. And so with the population in El Paso County, they could just crack. They could control all 5 of them by making sure no single district or 2 districts had enough Democratic voters in it. Yeah, so they and it also, I will say that it does make it easier for them that the Southeast doesn't vote in high numbers.
Right. Yes. Participation is generally pretty low.
Yeah. So if you put all of the Southeast into one district of any kind, Senate district, county commissioner district, there is no way that a Republican can, well, I shouldn't say no way a Republican can win, but there's no way that it would be a Republican leaning district.
Right.
So it's just not, even with the low voter turnout, it's just not possible. So we were able to argue on that line that they were illegally gerrymandered, and had been since the 70s, non-white populations in Southeast Colorado Springs, and they yielded on that point. It was too bad too, because we had a lot of lawyers that
that were ready to go.
That were ready. Yeah, they were a little bit disappointed. We went back to the lawyers and said, well, in County Commissioner 3, we could argue that it isn't contiguous, because they're like, no, we're not.
Yeah,
we wanted.
You're done.
Yeah, we wanted that one, and the county knew that too, so that's why they yielded.
Infamous, was it Cammie who was like, well, we don't want to draw this because I don't want to be in a position where I would have lost my seat.
that was Williams.
Well, okay, well, yes.
Yeah. To be fair to Cammie, that was Williams. And it was a really interesting quote because it was so innocent.
Yeah.
The way that she delivered
just
it.
off the cuff. Like, wait, I could lose if you redraw my boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, that's more or less, she said something like, if we redraw these, that means that we'll have to be in competitive races or something like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that. The quotes in I know the Independent and others quoted
it's
it
out
back
there.
then. Yeah.
The facts are out there.
We'll pull that up. This was 2023.
Yes. During the fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when they were having all the hearings down over here. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
down, right. And while we were gavelled in, while
Yes.
that commission was gavelled in, she made that statement.
Which
and she didn't
it
mean
wasn't
anything.
an off the cuff, like off the record thing.
You're right. She didn't mean it in a bad way. I think she was just,
She was
she had
speaking the
been
truth.
existing in a reality for decades. And a similar thing did happen with Cammie one time, though. So
Okay.
when we were talking about County Commissioner District 5, she made this statement about how as county commissioner, she doesn't have a lot of opportunity to meet necessarily with people that live in her district, it being an all urban district, because the county focuses its energy on the county, like the unincorporated county.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that the city is subsidizing the county so that developers like the two families that you're a part of can make more money. So again, she's not thinking about it that way, though, right? It's just an innocent statement. Like her reality as county commissioner was everything they were doing was thinking about how to build infrastructure out east or in unincorporated parts of the county. But that's not like a legal responsibility of the county government. It's just how ours operates.
Yeah, but it's like that's part of the districts anyways, that it's even though this urban area is covered by the city being the city, like you as a county commissioner still have to go in there and talk to the people who are there.
Not even that. The funds that the county, what is it called? The rural transit
PPRTA.
Yes. So you can spend that money in a variety of ways, including to support your constituents.
Yes. Right.
Your constituents in County Commissioner District 5.
Because that's a county-wide tax for infrastructure, roads and stuff like that.
And some of the money is spent, and it's not like there's a legal obligation to not spend it in a way that helps the city. There's,
no, because the city has leverage.
Right, exactly, right.
Because that funds a lot of city projects.
But again, she just has seen her job
change
No, she hasn't.
Oh,
she has not seen it change. She's just seen it over the years that's her job, is to continue to support the efforts of taking money from the city. It's not the way she would put it.
Okay.
But taking money from the city and using it to subsidize development in the county.
Which they need. Like, I remember I lived out east of Calhan for a bit, still in the county, and there's a point you get past that Calhan highway, and it is crap.
Sure.
Like, it is... Like, you complain about city roads all you want, but you get out into the county sometimes, it's like, they still need those stuff. The places where we're not. And there are other towns in El Paso County.
Absolutely.
Monument, Fountain, Manitou Springs.
Yeah, and we're not talking about Manitou is directly connected to the city. But
basically,
we're not talking about not supporting existing communities.
Right,
What
exactly.
we're talking about is creating new infrastructure so that they can continue to build up new developments, new subdivisions
like Falcon.
in the county. Sure. Well, Falcon is there now.
It is.
Right, exactly. So
Peyton.
Falcon.
I mean, Peyton's been there, but building it out.
Yeah, Falcon is really interesting, though, because it goes back to this whole fight we've been having over development in this community since really Palmer started buying land from the government in the 1870s.
Yeah.
But we've seen so if you look at a map, of Colorado Springs, like just Google the map so you can see the
vastness of it.
the boundaries,
Yes.
the specific boundaries, and look where Falcon is.
Yeah, it's outside of it.
Is immediately outside of it,
Yeah.
but this undeveloped part of the city. Because what happened is when we annexed Banning Lewis Ranch in the 1980s,
yes,
we looked at it as this opportunity to put in rules, right, to end this sort of like rapid suburbanization of the city. And so we had all these rules in place so that if they developed out there, then they would have to develop in a way that would create more walkable communities and things like that.
Yeah.
And so this came from this master plan. Because if you don't know, let's put that on the screen too, I suppose. But Banning Lewis Ranch is huge. So it's right now about a fifth the size of the city, of the land mass of the city.
Yeah,
And they saw it as an opportunity for this like grand vision. It's not even that big of a deal, but this vision for turning Colorado Springs into more of a city,
a denser walkable. The 15-minute cities is kind of a conspiracy term at this point, but walkable cities.
Yeah, and so
walkable neighborhoods.
And we built this thing, the Southern Delivery System.
Yeah, from the mountains in there.
Well, no, not from the mountains, from Pueblo. Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
So we're pulling up water from Pueblo now. So that's a whole other controversy, but
right.
let's not even worry about that part of how we got those rights.
You might say it's complicated,
right.
yeah.
But then we spend $1 billion on the system to pull water uphill, so that we can get water to Banning Lewis Ranch. So I'm just going to say, once your city plan is to start pulling water uphill, you need to really start thinking about your future, right?
And
start thinking about
zoning,
right, exactly,
and transit and everything.
Exactly, yes. But so
Banning Lewis.
They pulled the water up to Banning Lewis, and then once that was completed, which I think was 2016, then Norwood, they made the argument that we can't. You've spent all this money to bring water to Banning Lewis Ranch, but we can't develop it because of your rules. They're too
restrictive.
Yeah. You have restrictive rules on us. So in order to honor the taxpayers' money that's been spent to provide us water in our development, we need you to loosen these rules for us. I mean, otherwise, what are we going to do? You've wasted the taxpayers' money.
Yeah, because that's a Southers thing. That was a Southers era. Like, he was fighting for it and everything. And I know he wasn't the only one, but that was we can't have these developers leapfrogging Colorado Springs and developing out in Falcon and then out in the county and stuff like that, which is how we get things like Carmen Line.
Right. And so that's the end of this story too with Falcon, is that earlier the developers just said, screw all this.
Yeah.
We'll just start developing right here, which is essentially Colorado Springs, but not in the city limits.
But in a good, 24 and Woodman there is a really good intersection.
It sure, yeah.
That makes sense.
I love driving through that part of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No sarcasm whatsoever. Anyway, but yeah, permissible land use. So you're setting up the primaries, the caucuses. What else do you do?
Oh man, there's so many things, you know.
As a chair.
Yeah, as the chair. I mean, my job as the chair, in my view, the way that I've been using the role, is I need to make sure as many people in the party are activated as possible, doing the things that they're interested in doing, if it's something that makes sense for us to be doing, and making sure we're all going in the same direction, and that there's accountability over the work that people are doing. So there's some people that have gotten so much done in these past few months. You know, the office is now open 5 days a week, right? We have full staff. We're actually now, we have so many volunteers coming into the office. We now need like new processes in place to make sure that they have productive things to do, all of them while they're there. And no, it's great. So
when were you elected?
In February.
So right after the inauguration.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there definitely seemed like there was a climate. I mean, obviously I'll tell you my story. I moved back here a decade ago, November 2015, and I was like, I should run for something because I love the city so much. And I started talking with people locally who were running, Dems that were running. And at that time, the Democratic Party locally was very much you go to the office. It was down, where was it? It was on Bijou, or it was around the corner from...
Bijou. Oh, yeah. Right,
way down
Bijou
south downtown.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of like 60s era posters, Vote Kennedy, New Deal, that kind of stuff. And the party was very much a Broadmoor like Tea Party. Like, we should really get something done in this conservative town. But in the years since then, it's really, and I know you've been in for 9 years, right, with the party?
Yeah, I've been on the executive committee for 9 years.
You've really seen that post-Bernie swing, because that's how I honestly got involved. I know that's how a lot of heads turned, was when Bernie got in there and said, this is a movement for populism. And to see that trajectory has been very interesting.
Well, I didn't witness the post-Bernie swing. I am a part of it.
You are the Bernie swing.
That's how I first got involved with the party. If you want to talk about before the executive committee, I was working with Bernie Sanders, all volunteer. Well, there were some paid people that would come from time to time, but
you were going to the rallies and stuff like that.
But yeah, the rallies are great.
Yes.
But that was my first taste of what I would say like actual organizing,
Yeah.
like starting to go door to door, build up lists of people that will show up to caucus, and then follow up with those people to make sure that they will show. Yeah, canvassing your neighborhood and working with and using a minivan and all of that.
Which is an app which has voter information that you can go address to address. And,
and it has a script written in there and everything. So we won by so much here in the county, and we actually outpaced Boulder and Denver. Although the Democrats up there have their hands on the levers of power, so they tend to be
those elites.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Their decision framework's a little different than ours down here.
Yeah,
but we won by such large margins that's the same process, caucus. Which again, when this video is coming out, will be in just a couple weeks. That you take, you assign the people, you elect the people that make up the central committee of El Paso County. So when the dust settled, it was upswing of Bernie supporters that were now in these positions that we didn't really have in mind, to be honest.
Right.
When we were running, when we were working for Bernie's campaign, but we then elected Electra Johnson, who was the like big name Bernie supporter as a candidate here in 2016.
And she had just run for county commissioner herself before then.
Yep, she had just run for county commissioner District 3, had done better than any Democrat, had come closer to winning than any Democrat had since we went to the 5-district system in the 70s. Yeah, and so it was an exciting time, and we elected Ultra to be chair, and that's when so that would have been February of 2017, and then that's when I first got involved as a executive committee member.
That's actually because I still have photos from that, but that's the first one I attended at the Citizens Service Center in the cafeteria, and I remember that election and all that, and it was really weird because I came into it, I didn't know anyone. I had so it was kind of like, maybe like one or two people that were just friends in that. But to come into this system raw and to not understand it, to have no connections, to not who the celebrities are and stuff like that. Sometimes that's what you have to do if you want to engage in that. And that can be very scary and anxiety provoking. Is like, here's this entire apparatus that's been working here for so long that I am just now dipping into, and it's strange and weird.
Yeah, most of the people that won that day were not part of an apparatus that had been
exactly.
there. Yeah, and that was one of our big challenges over the next few years was, we had such a turnover in involvement, and there were people that were still involved, like Mike Madej is, he's been super involved since the Obama era. Yeah. And but yeah, we had to suddenly start putting things together. I know that there was a perception of some strife, and obviously there was some truth to that within the party. And so it's actually interesting looking back on those days, especially the protests that blossomed right after Trump was inaugurated, which again would have been the time that the first time I came into the executive committee, and there was these mass protests. And looking back on those days and looking at what we're doing now, just institutional knowledge built up and all of that, it's like, wow, we could have done a lot more with those.
That's kind of like the hindsight, right? That is you seeing how big these crowds are now with like the No Kings protests and how huge. Like that's probably the biggest I've ever seen. But also, I didn't really start getting into the protest movement until like 2020 anyway. Sure. With the Black Lives Matter, but it seemed like before then they were smaller. Like. Yeah. Definitely like, what are those liberals doing here? They're never going to win anything.
Yeah, but I think that the challenge for us now is taking those protests, people that show up energized, and somehow tapping people.
Turnkeying.
Yeah, tapping people into like specific actions. Yeah. That are going to help us win elections. And part of it, again, going back to 2017, is I didn't know what those specific actions were, or how to organize it or put it together, or
not knowing the mechanisms of not like power sounds vain, but like just how the political party works that you can get people elected or even just put them up.
Yeah, it's definitely not power unless you consider asking volunteers to do things power.
Some people would construe it that way. Like people think that any political position is just a power grab, and it ferments that kind of distrust in any government. But the the mayor is in it for his kickbacks or whatever.
I mean, sure, the mayor does have power. So I'm chair of the party, the El Paso County Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So we don't really have power. We have responsibilities. We have an institutional knowledge. We have money to help us get done what we need to get done from donors. But as far as power goes, our power has to be with persuasion, the power of persuasion. And so we don't have direct power over...
You're not politicians.
We're not... some of us do jump... So Amy Pascal is an example of someone that was on the party side and is now on the elected side.
Yes.
Which, she's great on
Steph
both.
too, right?
Steph too. Exactly.
You know?
So we actually maybe do have a bit of a pipeline here, but it's two different sides.
But that's the point. But because when you have a pipeline like that and then no one ever gets elected, like that's discouraging.
Yeah. No, actually, that sounds like a really positive thing. Get involved with the party, and
then nothing happens.
Right. You may end up in government if you do.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, God. But you mentioned how the power structures of the Denver and the Boulder part, because they kind of have a lock. Like they don't have to worry as much about the minority element. I mean, they still have to refute rhetoric and all that stuff, but it's not like your guerrilla warfare as it is here, so to speak. Not legally real warfare here, people, but like fighting for every inch.
Yeah, and I've got a hot take on that.
Oh, dope. I love hot takes.
With the school board races right now. Now, by the time this is out, those will be over.
Yes.
But it is so interesting to have conversations with people from Denver, some of the best people, most important organizers we have in the state and things like that. But it's interesting having these conversations with them and how they just completely look past the school board races.
Yes.
And this is why. So they'll be asking me, how can we help you? And they'll be giving all these ideas to us and looking towards 2026 or helping to organize the party and everything. And they don't realize that we're knee deep in an election cycle right now in this county, because up there, it's all Democrats running against each other for school board. So they, as a party, kind of have to figure out how to navigate that and maybe just stay out, which is what they do. But they don't understand that down here, it's the Moms for Liberty versus slightly left of center candidates, and we're fighting for the life of our school board, of our school systems,
of our
down
education
here.
systems. Yeah.
And so it's just in Denver that just goes right over their heads. Every conversation, and I bring it up. I'm like, guys, that we have an actual election of consequence here. The majority of your property taxes they go to school boards. Like even if you don't have kids, guys, it's still important to think about what the school board's going to do with all that money. And we're fighting for our lives down here against dark money interests, just the full right-wing onslaught of both the social right-wingers, like the Moms for Liberty, and then wherever this dark money's coming from. It might be Texas. We do not know. We have researchers on it. We have money coming in, influencing our elections. So it's like, guys, we're in an actual election. So if you're calling me right now, 8 weeks before, if you want to talk about something, can we bring up this election that we have in Colorado Springs? And then you look at a district like D11, where if there were D's and R's on the ballot, we would never have lost that board, right? If voters could open their ballot and see, these are Democrats and these are Republicans, we'd win. It's areas that we win. It's where Amy Pascal is. It's where Mark Snyder is. It's where Steph Beehill's seat was. So
you're saying even the opposite, because these are and this also segues into the point of the Democratic Party locally endorsing nonpartisan races, because if people don't know what these people are, it's not as easy for them to go, I only vote for the R's or I only vote for the D's. But you're saying that's got a benefit to it as well, because it reduces the murk.
Well, the majority of, just some behind the scenes look at how electoral planning
exclusive
works.
Here on Binlow,
The vast majority of your votes in any of these partisan elections were going to happen regardless of anything that you did. Mm-hmm. So if we didn't knock one door, if we didn't put out one commercial, one flyer, if we had a made-up candidate,
Jim Johnson,
Jim Johnson, the Democrat, and just had it on the ballot, that D on the ballot is where we get the majority of our votes from.
Yeah.
So that, I think what ends up happening a lot is people that are into politics, they imagine the world as if everybody is into politics. So if we had the right messaging, or we had this or that, we would overwhelm the system, and we could, we could win all of the seats, any seat that exists. But the majority of our votes, the vast majority, are just sort of automatic. And so, so there is an advantage to that for sure. Now, that is disappointing in these nonpartisan races where we're in areas like District 11 that we should be able to win easily, and we're losing and by significant margins. And that's because of the money that's being put into the races.
Yeah.
And so they're just doing a better job of getting that. Now, going back to the part where you do compete against each other, try to get the most touches and have the best messaging to those swing voters and all of that. They're just doing it with money.
Yeah.
And so
they have the structures.
I'm hitting the table. So there's a
passionate John Jarrell and his table. Yes.
I know. They warned me against it, and I still did it. But so we've got to figure out how to counter that as a party. And I'm hoping that by the time this comes out, we'll be able to look back and say, oh, we did. And I'm not going to talk about the specifics of how we're going to do that.
Right. Yeah. No secret plans are being unveiled here or anything.
Yeah.
Naomi Lopez is the vice chair, and that seems like she would also have a really big hand in a school board election too.
Yeah, she was just a member of the D11 steering committee or executive committee, whatever they call it, the CSEA executive committee. However, she has now gone to District 2. So she's not a part of D11, but absolutely. So she was a part of the planning for the strike that will have happened. And I hope that a few of you out there watching went and stood with the teachers on the line, and the setting up for the election as well. So yeah, she's been very involved. She's a very effective vice chair, to be sure.
So your job is to motivate the people who are already in the system, and that how much of that is outreach and saying, hey, let's find the common ground, or is that more of the theater of the politicians?
Yeah, I don't see the common ground as being the role of the party. In fact, one thing you have to be careful of, and people learn this again and again, I'm just going to tell you now, if you're thinking about running for office, Steph Hill will back me on this, where, Steph Hill took a Republican seat with this same philosophy. But when you try to play to the middle, what you end up doing is you lose the motivation. You kill the motivation of the very people that you need to help you win.
The the ends.
Yeah. So as the Democratic chair, if I came out and gave messages on, hey, we need to really work with the Republicans, or those centrist Republicans,
we need to find the middle ground between here and fascism.
Right.
Can we do a half fash? Can we do?
Yes. No. I mean, that's how it'll come. That would be the message, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's how you going to split this baby in half?
That's not going to get a lot of people knocking doors for you. And
no, I don't think that would. No.
Yeah. And so again, the vast majority of votes you're just going to get in these partisan races like V-Hills. So what we need to do is get enough touches, enough door knocks, or whatever it is. The other side does it more with money. We do it more with person to person.
Yeah.
But we need to get enough touches that we fight over those votes that are there to be taken, either by making sure someone votes or convincing someone that we knew was going to vote for us. That's sort of the canvassing strategy. So, yeah.
So doesn't that feel? I mean, what's your fear of polarization, and that in the increasing polarization then, where if you say the power only and the rhetoric and the money and this and that only reside on the far ends of the spectrum, how do you, is that healthy? Because it doesn't seem like it, even though that's just the way that the thing is structured right now.
No. So me as chair of the party, I'm going to come out and I'm going to speak about the working class, labor rights. I'm going to talk about my participation with the DSA and the DSA's labor organizing, and my participation with the Area Labor Council. And I'm going to talk about how I came up through Bernie, and all that's true.
Yeah.
And so come work with me, everybody. Let's do this. But then some of the people that we put into office, they have a different role. So I think what you're talking about right now is more. So take Mark Snyder, for example.
Sure.
Right? That's an incredibly important seat. Perhaps the biggest win the Democrats have ever had. in this county, flipping Senate District 12, which is a Republican district, to the Democratic Party. But he is not going to be standing in front of crowds and
talking about labor and bringing down the proletariat.
Right. He's not going to talk about fascism, how we're fighting fascism. He's not going to talk about, definitely he's not going to talk about socialism, democratic socialism.
Right.
But no, he's working with the labor unions though. So he has a different way of approaching, right? And I think that when you are in office, you have and just running for office, you have a different set of priorities and just the system in front of you is more about winning over some of that middle, because you need that to first of all win. Like Mark Snyder, if he was running on the messages that I would have run on, right, then he would have lost. Right. So I think that there's truth in what you're saying on polarization, but as chair of the Democratic Party,
he's your job to hold down the anchor here.
I'm sort of in the most
making sure that this sail is going just right, you know.
Exactly. I'm in the most polarized position I think that should exist or does exist in the local political scene, and I'm going to use that.
The bully pulpit.
Not even that. We need to make sure that those people that do have the same political ideals as me realize that they can be activated in this system and make real change. And that they have people in the party that they can trust. That will never, abandon those ideals. And that, but what the fight looks like out on the streets, and I mean door knocking.
That's not a literal fight, people.
Well, it is a literal fight. It's just not a physical fight.
There we go. Okay. Yes.
But
very good.
The fight is not what you imagine it is until you get involved in it. So, I have to like ride that fence where I'm not abandoning those ideals and getting people excited. Like, hey guys, I've got 2 red flags in my car at all times, just in case. But at the same time, we need to participate in this system where this is actually how things get done. This is why Bernie Sanders lost, for example. Everyone wants to talk about the DNC. The DNC doesn't. They're not as powerful as people think. We need and we won in Colorado.
But like other states where I remember that there was the Bernie couldn't access offices or whatever, this and that, Nevada, things like that.
So we need to take the very tools of the people that have been winning elections and running things for decades, and use those same processes and tools to advance our more left-leaning vision for governance.
So how do you then split the difference there, where you'll have progressives that are like, we need a Bernie Sanders running for every position because that's the only way we're going to advance the Overton window this far to the left to a healthy way of system, versus we're only going to get, say, a Mark Snyder in here.
Well, first of all, Mark Snyder is great.
He is, and that's not to dig on, but as a more centrist candidate in comparison, you have those people who have I hate to even see this, purity tests of like, if you are not aligned with Bernie, if you're not saying Gaza is a genocide at every single moment that you can, free Palestine, all that stuff, then you shouldn't be running. You're basically just a righty. Like, how do you split that? Because there are races where it's like, you're practically a Republican. No, I endorse all of the mainline Democrat. It's just, I'm not as left as AOC or Bernie or what have you.
So I got a pretty simple answer to that. I would say get involved with the DSA, even right, and learn,
which is independent from
it's not the party for sure. So get involved even with the DSA and learn where those seats are that we can run DSA members and win, and help with that, while also learning the maturity to be able to work with the other Democrats who maybe don't have the same views as you, but who you can build relationships with to advance our vision and goals. So I mean, it's not, I'm going to say, for someone that's only been on the sidelines, it's not what you think it is. It's just, what is that called? The Dunning-Kruger effect. I'm not trying to say anyone's dumb, but truly, if you haven't been involved, you don't know what it is that you should be doing to advance the things that you want to advance, and get involved, even just with the DSA. They're actually growing rapidly. We are growing rapidly right now in the city. A lot of that has to do with Mamdani, who I really hope by the time
that seems pretty done.
Well, there could be something in play where the right wing makes a deal and people drop out and everyone backs Cuomo or something like that. So I'm not as comfortable as you are in thinking that it's over. But
I've been wrong before, but it is a pretty.
It's looking very good right now.
Yeah, it's like it is now. It's very sunny looking,
Yes.
no clouds.
Yeah,
yes,
it's looking really good. And but yeah, we've seen huge growth in the DSA. So join up, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, once you're involved and you've helped with one election,
Yeah.
like Mariah Lowers, where we almost won, and we started that way too late. We didn't even start sending out text for her campaign until ballots were already out.
Yeah.
You know.
So let me posit this. Say a member of the DSA primaries Mark Snyder. Is that preferable? I know, again, I'm not trying to bag on Mark Snyder. He's a really great dude, but like, is that preferable?
I think that if the DSA, it's what would this be, 2028?
Whenever it is.
Yeah.
The future.
But it is.
Yeah.
So it's 2028 and we have a DSA member trying to primary Mark Snyder.
Yeah.
I would say that poor strategic decisions had been made, up to that point. If that's what a DSA member
what they want to do.
Yeah, and so I think that would be detrimental to the very cause that we stand for.
Was it just be burning a lot of fuel on that?
Well, exactly, right.
On a safe seat.
It's not safe, right?
Relatively safe.
Senate District 12 is not a safe seat.
Okay.
You
just flipped it because that was a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a Republican leaning seat.
Yeah.
And so a DSA member running in that seat probably loses.
Yeah.
But that's not true for all the seats around here.
No. Right. And in city councils. So one of the things that I've thought about even in this recent in relative terms, the birth of the sun, but there were several districts where you had a number of candidates that were similar ideologically, definitely center to right leaning. And it's like, if there was one progressive candidate that would have run, if there was a Mariah that ran in this district or a Mariah ran or Chauncey or whomever, because the Democratic Party endorsed both of them for this past city, they would have won because everyone else is splitting the vote.
That is a possibility. So one thing that we really want to make sure that we do as a party, saying, going back to that recruitment question earlier, is we should be keeping our eye on every race. And we have those opportunities, like you're saying, that emerge. They are very specific opportunities where a district in one of these nonpartisan races has a split vote, and both campaigns are going to be effective. And so we come in and we back a candidate and we use our tools for directly contacting voters in what is going to be a low turnout race. And we get enough voters out to win whatever the split vote is. Absolutely, it's right in front of us. It's something we should and will be doing.
Because the turnout on these races, especially city races, is that it's like all you have to do is vote and you win. Like, get 5 of your friends and you're in.
Well, that's not that, and once we are running a candidate and they see that we're backing someone, they will spend money
to actually oppose you.
To get enough touches and everything. So it's none of those would be gimmies. But absolutely, the opportunity is there, and that is politics. Is winning races. So it's something that we should have been doing, and we absolutely will be doing
going forward.
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, because you've obviously spent 9 years in the committee, there's always been an ongoing conversation about third parties. It's like these two big tents have suffocated all of the air and the support and the this and that from the political system. They're all owned by corporate bigwigs. Whatever rhetoric you want to staple onto that, they're not representing the needs of people because they're trying to mitigate and, try to approach. So where does we need to get into this one tent that already exists versus we need to start a whole new tent, third party, and go that way and eventually suffocate and die?
So going back to the Dunning-Kruger effect. So once you're involved in races and helping people win, you quit including DSA members. you quickly learn that the stress of elections, like where all the work is put, is in contacting these voters who almost don't even care. Mm-hmm. You know,
there's a lot of apathy.
Yeah, you're fighting to get people to vote at all.
Yes,
and the majority, especially in nonpartisan races, but in past those sort of automatic votes you get, the majority of any campaign is just trying to get these like low information or low interest voters to vote. Mm-hmm. And so if you're imagining, again, I think that people, when they're not involved in electioneering, they think about other people that are interested in politics, and they start thinking that everybody is like that. No, we're like the 2.5% of the population. We are not the majority. And so when you start thinking about how you get the majority of these apathetic compared to activated people, apathetic voters to vote, it's like, guys, what you're talking about doing is trying to steal the activists from the Democratic Party, because that's who you're actually thinking of. It's like, oh, these people that would join a third party, like if the DSA
like
became
the Labor
its own
Party.
And now you're in the same position. You've got enough to get 2% of the vote you need. You need to hit 50%.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
Now you're in the same slog we're already in.
Yeah.
Whereas you can win over those same activists and just take over the party itself.
Yeah.
and have
go that route.
Right. Have a direct role in deciding the vision of the party. And now, again, the primaries are ultimately determined by a state-run election. Right. So, taking over the party doesn't like give you control of the candidates.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about simply taking the activists, because that's all you would get if you formed a new party and you had the success that you're imagining, you would still be in the same situation that we're in now.
You just wouldn't have all the stuff that's been built up over the course of years and decades and stuff.
And I can tell you, and everybody sees this that gets involved, the Democrats that are involved members of the party are always to the left of the candidates. It's just the way it is. The people that are activated and want to work sort of for free, to come and make the community better, tend to be more left-leaning. Just like on the other side, their activists tend to be farther to the right, than the candidates. So, and
Steve Bannon isn't running for office.
Well, exactly. Well, let's hope. Hopefully that's aged well.
Woo! But
exactly. No, he's a true believer, though. He's a good example.
He is the anchor on the other side.
Right, exactly.
Burn everyone down.
Yeah, he's a true believer.
Yeah.
So I just think that the idea is to me it's like nonsense. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is let's ignore that for a little bit, the numbers, and talk about how exciting our messaging and the movement would be and all this stuff. It's like, okay, guys, the numbers are there, though. We're going to have to come back to them at some point.
Yeah, you're going to have to come in and have the turkey leg in this tent, and there's nothing outside. It's just mud.
I don't understand this metaphor. So
that's great. Is
that something I should?
We're going to start our new tent. Basically, and we're gonna have our own turkey legs, but we don't have access to as many, and so therefore,
not even just that. Like once they've succeeded, they've recreated a new party, and they have the tools in place. They're just back to the same place we are now,
right?
Where we're going to have to figure out how to get the unmotivated middle, to vote, and even just unmotivated Democrats or leftists or whatever to vote. It's not easy. And learning how to win that fight. Taking over the party's easy, because again, it will show up to
easy.
It's easier than winning an election, winning one of the state-run elections.
Yeah.
And in the end, the elections are run by the state.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize this. So it would not matter if we all decided to register as Republicans and we just went over and took over their party apparatus, won their primaries, and had candidates in. That's it. Then those are the candidates. So I think people are so obsessed with, like, again, they take a step back. They think about messaging. They think about, like, what is it to be a Democrat? What is it to be a socialist,
Yeah.
And they lose sight of the fact that the Democratic Party is just a legal entity.
Yeah.
Anyone that registers as a Democrat can participate, can take over. take over the party, and we would have no way to stop them.
Yeah.
So it's just...
Because likewise, the other way, the Republicans could take over the Democratic Party.
Right, they could just all register as Democrats.
Which is where you get some of that, sometimes you get that rhetoric. It's like, oh, you're just a Republican who's in here. I'm not saying anything specific, but theoretically, like a Republican's coming in and taking over, and there are shadow ops going on inside this party.
Right.
And the more conspiratorial might... Anyway,
and I just want to point out, this isn't a feasible strategy for us
because you have to win first before you have enough energy to do that. It would be
the number of people we would have to get to register as a Republican, right? It's just nonsensical.
Yes.
It's not a feasible strategy, but the point is that as a legal entity, it is there.
Yeah.
And so the idea of, we're going to create a new legal entity.
Yeah.
We're going to start from scratch.
Yeah.
We're going to take that over. It's like, guys, just coming into the Democratic Party, if you want that part of it done, is easier.
Yeah.
Then when it comes to electing candidates,
inventing from scratch,
we follow a legal process.
Yeah.
That's run by the state. So you don't get control of that. So then you're in the same situation we're in now.
Because I remember that right around when you started with the executive committee, there was that split. I mean, there's obviously those generational splits in that, but you had the Democrats, and then you had like the Democratic Club that would meet, and then the Democrats said, no, you are not the legal representation of this party. You can't keep using that. And then it just kind of fizzled out in that. But that same idea.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a mess back then. I just want to throw out, since it was brought up, that we will be premiering the Kathleen Ricker Inspiration Award at this year's gala. So any thing like that from the past we're definitely like we're way over that.
That's ancient history.
Right, exactly. Yes. Just to be clear. What was the question, though? I'm sorry.
So has the party been more supportive at the state level? Because I remember this was kind of a backwater, like you're never going to win anything. I moved the microphone, Dave, it's always been we're never going to win here, so why send resources? You guys are on your own, that kind of thing. Has that changed?
I think there's going to be some of that mentality from a strategic perspective, and I think that makes sense. However, I will say that Shad is very engaged in the county. Mm-hmm. We're in constant communication about how they can support us and what our combined strategy will look like in 2026. And it looks like this year we have a lot of candidates running for CD5. There may be even more by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
Although, again, if you're interested in helping decide that, who is our candidate, get involved in the caucus that's coming up soon.
Yeah.
We are very likely to see more external resources put into that race than we have ever seen before.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. So
1,000%.
So this is becoming an area where, there's more and more interest. So keep this in mind. There are 4 Senate districts that are in Colorado Senate districts.
Yeah.
There's not federal Senate districts.
Yes.
But we have 4 that are entirely within our county, and then 35 out east that extends on. But the 4 that we have entirely within the county, we currently, as the Democratic Party, control 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't come from a lack of interest from the state party. In fact, the state and Kamala's campaign were all very involved in us winning that seat. So I will push back a little bit on the idea that they're not putting resources in here. Mm-hmm. But I think that they are looking to put resources in strategically. I have a really good relationship with the state party, where we pretty much have a strategic vision locked in. It depends, on who wins and kind of how things develop.
Yeah.
But I think we'll be seeing multiple seats flipped here next year.
That'd be dope.
Yeah. Or by the time you watch that this year. And I think that it's not just a possibility, it's a reasonable expectation that we have a minimum of 2 seats flipped here next year. So, and that's going to come with, we're going to be able to accomplish that with the help from the state party.
Well, and a chunk of that too is just people realizing that when you have a bigger, growing urban area like ours, is that you can't have that small town mentality as much anymore. And so you do have the purpling that's been going on over the past few decades.
Yeah, we definitely have a slow swing to the left here in the county. Whether or not that trend continues, we'll have to keep an eye on it.
Because that's work. That's the work.
Well, yes, to an extent. Now, again, the biggest part is who is here.
Yeah.
There is obviously some convincing going on. But I
now
think
you're going to run for chair forever, right?
That's
The
exactly.
goal. No, I understand.
I'll be chair for forever. Exactly.
Yeah, the forever chair. The emperor thanks you. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not call me an emperor right now.
So the emperor thanks you. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because
Yes.
some people have made some accusations of that sort against me.
Oh.
You know.
All right.
I know when you've got the big personality, sometimes people don't. Anyway.
Yeah.
But
the purpling of the region and the long term, the long game, and because people are going to come after you. You will eventually stop running for office.
Well, yeah, and the long term growth here, though, I'm not sure that it's sustainable. So a lot of our swing left has come from a growing population, but we're seeing a situation now with the cost of housing and the water shortages that we're likely to face in the future. We may see an exodus of young voters. And if that were to happen, I think our swing left may stall out in the county. You know, I think people would like to believe that we could have, again, just such a strong message that we could pull everyone in regardless. But I think an exodus of young people, if we're not able to create a local economy here that can sustain a young professional cohort, then we're going to see some stalling out on the gifts we've been given by the numbers in this town. Yeah,
and we've seen that kind of broadly with the economy and stuff like that. Since this is El Paso County and Colorado Springs and that, what are some, and obviously you ran for county commission, you've been the politician run, but my question is, what are some hyper local issues that you're interested in? And I know you stand for workers' rights and that, so minimum wages and stuff like that. What are some pet things that I wish Colorado Springs / El Paso County were working more towards this direction? Because you did just mention growth and responsible growth and densification and taking care of that. Do we de-annex Norwood and Banning Lewis and say, all right, your guys aren't going to play ball, we're going to play ball?
Yeah, it is unfortunate that that's not an easy path forward anymore, that we didn't hold on to that annexation agreement a little longer, maybe negotiate a little bit better of a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We still can. They haven't done anything.
Well, but it's been voted on now.
We can vote again.
We could, yeah,
yes,
sure.
Which is how we got this to begin with.
Right, sure. But it would have been easier to hold on to it.
I agree.
And then, and negotiate better terms.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about the issues that I think most of us that are activated left-leaning people think about in the town, which is long-term growth and density and development, public transportation. And we have an opportunity.
I rode a bus in here today.
Sure, I walked over.
Heck yeah, that's public.
Yeah, exactly. The sidewalks.
Privately public, yeah.
So I think that Colorado Springs, we've obviously had huge suburban growth since World War II, an enormous. I mean, that's a whole. We could do a podcast just on that.
Oh, I know.
Just on that story.
1,000%.
But we're now in a position where it's not as easy as it would be for some other cities to implement some of these things. But we also have advantages too. All kidding aside, we have these huge streets that people always talk about. I mean, you think about Circle. South of Fountain right now, city limits, it's not downtown, but it's the city.
Yeah.
And that's basically a highway right now with you have hundreds of yards to your left or right, nothing.
Easements, basically.
Yeah, easements and road, parking lots. And so we, I think, have a lot of opportunity for infill and thinking about long-term growth in the public transportation sector. And we have some advantage in the way that we've grown and that we can go back to some of these areas. And we have more options in front of us for things like dedicated bus line than some other areas would. So obviously those are I think they're probably talked about on the show all the time. Yeah, the density in housing, water rights.
Repetition legitimizes.
Oh, sure. So, yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying, I mean, I think we're on the
bicycles.
But just creating a urban system that will allow for multiple options for transportation, but that also generate enough tax money, right? This is a bit, we're talking more of like the use and the ecology and all that. But there's also just this system where we're taking money from the city, putting it out into these long roads in the county so we can build a new development. Well, then those developments aren't generating as much tax per square foot or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it creates more long-term headaches for us where we feel like, well, we need another new development, and that'll give us like the short-term cash boost.
Yeah. If you want suburban sprawl, just put it out near frickin' Lyman. Or
I think we've sprawled enough.
You and me are on the same street here, buddy.
I think we are gonna.
But the county might disagree with that.
It's going to hit them soon too. I mean, but
it already is because they're approving. It's like SimCity. They're just sitting there clicking and dragging over a quarter of the map and saying green.
Yeah.
You're good. They are doing it now. They have been doing it. Mm-hmm. They keep doing it.
Well,
and it's like where are they get like the just recent the 5,000 home development right next to Schriever.
Yeah.
They're doing whatever, and where are they getting the water and stuff like that?
Well, Nick, these families made the investment in the land over 100 years ago, and they've been holding on to it. You don't think that they should have the right to be able to cash in on that investment?
Don't do anything that's going to change my property values because the house is the only thing in this system that allows me to acquire wealth.
Yeah, not the houses. They have more. They have more land than a houses
actually
worth.
Would need. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the fight we're still in, and I think that the writing is on the wall now with us rejecting the Carmen Line annexation.
Yes,
and I know that they claim that their process assures that there's hundreds of years of water for any development. Well beyond the 100-year requirement from the state government.
Yeah.
But as we run out of water out there, it's not like, oh, one day there's not water.
Yeah.
It just becomes less economical to draw the water, and the water reduces in quality, and it can now take more money to process that water to get it to a level where people are going to be comfortable drinking it.
Yeah.
So that's the future that we face out there in the eastern part of the county. And the only question is when. It's kind of odd. They're saying, well, it's actually going to happen a lot longer away than what you're saying, Why
forecast for something getting worse later?
Sure. And we're already seeing these complaints on Nextdoor in some of the areas. People, the water's just not as good in Monument as it was when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. It's like, because you're drawing the water from the ground. And so that's the inevitable future that you face is that if you're drawing water from the ground, it's not being replenished or being replenished at a rate that's negligible.
Yeah.
Then your
water
quality
takes a long time to replenish.
Yeah. Your
aquifer is a very long process.
Yeah. Your water quality is going to drop. And I know that there's a lot of work being done to try to replenish the aquifers here and, recycle water and everything. But in the end, it's not exactly entropy, but we're going to run out. The pressure is going to go down. And as soon as that hits a point where it's obvious it's going to happen, the value of all that land out there is just going to collapse. So we're seeing right now, and this is just my opinion, this is not an official position of the party or anything.
Sure.
But we're seeing sort of the final throes of this investment scheme that people, some of the same families own the land now that owned it back then. Mm-hmm. But these investments were made all on the heels of Palmer building his rail line through here. And then we saw in the 1870s, huge amounts of land being bought up, homesteads being bought up. That's what Penning Lewis Ranch is, right?
Yeah.
And they know on their end, if we don't get a development soon, right, then it's over. So that's why they wanted that Carmen Line one so badly. That's why they're going to continue
to plug and try.
Yeah, just so
like
go
Amara
forward
before that.
Go forward with the county then, if that's not going to work. And with Fountain, whatever it takes right now, because the writing is on the wall. We're running out of water, and from the ground, it's not an infinite supply. And as soon as it hits a point where it's like, it's just media knowledge. Like, oh, there's something going on now with the water out there.
But it's actually been going on gradually for a very long period of time. Like climate change.
But whatever line we cross, and I don't know exactly what that'll be, but I know.
But we'll know.
Yeah, something will happen, right? Where a line is crossed and it's now just like the public perception that we're running out of water, then the value of houses out there is going to plummet. Mm-hmm. All new development will stop. And anyone that's still holding on to land that never got developed, it's useless. You might as well be 20 miles further to the east.
Yeah, exactly, in the next county over. And that's actually kind of a pet issue of Shelley Rohr's of the League of Women Voters is so much of our water, like a lot of other metro areas, goes to landscaping and stuff like that. And so you see cities like Vegas and Arizona, they've got it dialed in because there's not green lawns everywhere. There are some, they do exist. There's plenty of golf courses still, but you see a lot of xeriscaped lawns and stuff like that. And it seems like that is kind of, I mean, I remember in high school, CSU was pitching like xeriscape your lawn, turn it, make it more efficient, stuff like that. It seems like that is kind of gradual, and then eventually it'll just be a cliff. Like everyone, xeriscape your lawn tomorrow. Buy 1,200 pounds worth of rocks and throw them on your lawn.
Yeah, I mean, this is one way that a lot of the other Democrats, DSAers, would disagree with me. But I always look at these things in terms of like supply and demand. So what's going to end up happening is the price of water is going to go up, right?
Yeah.
And so there's still going to be lawns, and I don't think that through regulation are we going to be able to fix this problem. I think what's going to happen is
the market's going to say,
as we start lowering, as we're running out of water, a lot of those choices are going to be made by just the dollar, and that's going to especially the way the politics are in this particular county, although we're trying to change that. So please join us in doing that. But we're going to see the land owning, property owning, business owning, money owning class still getting their way. Just they'll be paying a little bit more. They won't be as happy about it.
But then we'll elect Trump for a fifth term.
Well, it's funny you say that because I think once what I'm talking about happens, we'll see a huge push left because it'll be like, well, we got to clean up the mess now,
Yeah.
So better elect Democrats. We got to clean this up.
We'll see how the misinformation goes.
Yeah, no.
I thought it was pretty clear in 24, like we don't elect him again, and then we did, and so that's a little scary.
Yeah. Well, if he's even alive by the time this podcast comes out,
they can hide him. They're doing a good job now, apparently, with the golf courses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to tap back on the protests that we were talking about earlier. At the Chinook Center has a podcast occasionally called Just US, and I've been listening to for a few years. And one of the things that came up recently was the value of protests and the ongoing. And I know you had some words in there too, but the idea of it's cool. Like protests are a necessary component of this, right? But they can't be this copacetic. Like you're going out there with your clever sign, every other weekend. Because back when that episode came out, they were really just happening like every single weekend, and it was huge. Like burning people out and stuff like that, which is inevitable. It's like, eventually you're going to fatigue people, and they're not going to want to participate because like, I got to go downtown again, and for whatever new thing that they have, it seems almost kind of like. So, what are your thoughts on what's the tempo of that, and where do you get into actual meaningful protests?
Yeah. So I, as you know, because you've seen me speak about it on that other podcast.
Yeah, that other one.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways that protests can be valuable.
Right.
And so I think that traditionally protests were valuable and that they were a direct action that got in the way of the normal functioning of the community and got a message out there. And that, you see this back in the 1960s, all this classic footage, of...
But even in the Industrial Revolution, like people like jamming up the gears of the machines and stuff.
Well, sure, but I'm talking about a protest similar to this one.
Yeah.
Where you might be showing, you're amassing in a location and you have your signs and everything.
Yeah.
So that's not what this wave of protest is, right? So we're not
yet anyway.
We're not yet, right?
No.
We're not trying to interfere, and that's that's okay. This is a different thing.
Yeah.
What these protests are for is more community building. So getting people out. It obviously helps with our mental health as well to get in such a big crowd and realize, there's this big energy
outside too.
What's that?
Getting outside.
Oh, getting outside. Sure. Yeah. Getting outside too. Yeah. But I would say it's now up to organizations like the Democratic Party, though, to Indivisible and others to tap into this, to steer people into a direction that, and you can see me talk about this again, and the other thing, but I think there's a lot of complaining right now from some people on the left about how, well, these aren't true direct action protests. Mm-hmm. You're not shutting down city council. Yeah. You're going out there when no one's in the building, even, with signs, so this is strictly about like getting together. We're not trying to block traffic. We're not trying to shut down City Hall. We're not trying to get in the way of the community.
There are people locally who are like, we're totally down for that.
Right. And at those protests too.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We're on the verge at a lot of them to doing it, but that's not what's happening. But first of all, like you're saying right now, it may come to that. Yeah. But also, I think it's the responsibility of organizers in the city to figure out how to. If you're getting hundreds, in some cases thousands of people together and they're all excited and you're like, well, what the heck? They're not doing what I want. What can I do with this? It's like, okay, you are an organizer. Go there and organize.
Make the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah. So I think that the value in the protests are all those things, probably other things, too, with it being they're being so large and there being so many people involved. But yeah, I think that at some point, though, that criticism does have validity in it, where if we are just showing up and holding signs up and taking photos and putting that on Facebook, and doing it in front of a city hall that's closed, then that's not going to take us to the next step. That is a step, but it's certainly not. It's not two steps.
Yeah, because I remember that with the Black Lives Matter protests. It was initially the big show, and then eventually we're walking down Platte, and then eventually as the numbers kind of wound down, that's when they had the incident where they walked out on I-25 and held up traffic.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then there was a lot of the Chinook Center formed during that time, for example. Okay. So I feel like there was some momentum from that era that we still see today.
That rolled into what that was.
And it's the same thing with the Bernie. I mean, we were having rallies, and then when the dust settled, there was like 25 of us. That stayed involved.
Yeah, because the other people, it's not to penalize people who aren't completely activated tuned into this, but like they're off doing their life or whatever, waiting for the next signal to show that there's something else that's going to happen. That kind of thing. But Chinook Center is standing up and saying, we're here, we're doing this.
Yeah, they've done a really good job, obviously, as a community hub. Shout out to Mariah Lauer,
the new executive
director there.
She's been very busy. She almost made the show, or I wanted her on the show, but she was very busy.
Sure,
completely understandable.
Yeah. But yeah, she's an example of the continued fight for Colorado Springs' future. And there's a lot of us involved still. So
it's not the dozens of us thing anymore.
Right. Well, you need a few dedicated people. This is something that we talk about a lot. You need a few dedicated people who are like keeping the torch burning at all times. I'm not talking about the Democratic Party perspective. We just need to grow and grow and grow. Yeah. But on the like leftist side, you got to have some people that are carrying the torch, because there's going to be the next opportunity, right? Yeah. So, and the more organized we are and the more we're getting done, then the more we can do with that. And I can say right now, if you are an active leftist in this community, you have no choice but to bump into something that's going on at the Chinook Center. So they, it's definitely a strong force for the community, and we'll see what happens next. I know that you're very confident about Mamdani winning. I am really
not quite there.
Yeah, it's constantly in the back of my mind, because it's like, if we can get this,
but at the same time, I think like that's all the way over there. And it's affecting them. Like, should New York people be concerned about who wins, say, the mayoral election out here, even though we're not as big?
Well, no, people in New York should not be concerned with who wins. Yeah, well, as concerned, but no, Mamdani. What's great about him is that he is the future of my generation's Democratic Party.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I think we're all very excited about this high-profile Democrat that's a millennial winning one of the biggest, most important seats in the country, and one that's sort of outside of the general machinery that elects Democrats and that where we elect our legislators and so on. So New York has a pretty unique system. I think that allowed him to navigate, with the primary, the way the Democratic primary was with ranked choice, allowed more freedom for a really exciting candidate to step up. And so all of that together with the excitement around him and then the huge role that he'll have, like the huge platform he'll have as mayor of New York City, is definitely like a flashpoint for a lot of the organizers on the left
for democratic socialism and that.
Yeah, that have argued that our future is the Democratic Party as well.
It's this ideology.
Yeah, it's this excitement. It's this I'm not going to say the ideology. I'm going to say his direct reference to the economic issues. And
he's not waving around Karl Marx and Capital or anything. Like he's
if he was, whatever. But he is direct. He's speaking direct. Yeah,
that's a photo op right there. It's like, look at this communist. And
I thought you said it was a Photoshop.
No, I did accidentally.
I thought you said no. That that's just a Photoshop. Of Mamdani, right.
I've seen a few pixels in my time. Yeah.
But so
it's reinvigorating.
It is. He's speaking directly to the economic issues, some of the same ones that we face here with housing and things like that. So I think that having this policy, because here's the formula that no one wants to admit, is that the more and a lot of leftists don't want to talk about until you get to the final point I'm going to make, which is that the more housing that you have, the lower the cost of that housing is going to be. People always point out how many empty houses there are, but it's like those vacancy rates, those are part of the supply. And so should we take actions to lower vacancy rates? Sure. But what ends up happening is, if that's just our focus is to lower vacancy rates, then we're lowering the value of housing, and then new housing isn't being built. Okay. So then from the developer side, they want to be the ones making all the profit and building housing. Yeah. So they want like tax cuts and things like that, cut regulation for us
and stuff.
Yeah. And so we'll build more housing, and it's true. Like the private sector is building all of the housing that we have. So
which is why you need to. Which is why, despite how much you may hate them or despise what they do, you still need a relationship with developers.
Sure, sort of. That's not quite. It's not quite where I'm going.
Okay, all right.
As I said, the leftists are going to disagree with me until I get to this final point here.
Yes. Yeah.
But so the cost of housing will go down with more housing. So the developers, they want to avoid this outcome. They don't want an outcome where the price of housing is going to go down. That's the way they make their money. So they want to play this game where they're building enough. They're taking tax cuts, so they're profiting a little bit more off of the dense housing or whatever it is. But in the end, if we're relying on the developers to set policy and to build the housing, then we're allowing people whose entire motivation is profit to design a system where they are going to continue to profit, and they're profiting off of housing. That's what we're paying for. The only way to break this cycle is to build more housing outside of that cycle.
Public housing.
That's the only way to break this cycle is to have public housing, high quality public housing. We're not replacing the developers, right?
No.
We're now their competition, and they don't want that, right?
Which is the same thing with the fiber build out from like CSU. Xfinity has been sitting on their laurels forever as the local monopoly.
Right.
I mean, you don't count CenturyLink, but it's the same idea. Have the public good be interested in providing this resource to people here,
and see what the competition does.
Yeah, and I think we'll see this with Mamdani's plan. When you're building high quality public housing, if he's able to succeed,
sure,
then you
I will not knock on wood. Yeah,
right. The government is now, if we're doing it right, we're making money off this too. Right.
Yeah.
So the public is making money off of this because the traditional system, again, this is similar to healthcare, is the public housing the developers are happy with is what? It's projects. It's things that will not compete with their market, right? So, of course, those are the plans that always get approved. That's why public housing is always so dreary, right?
American public housing specifically.
Sure.
Yes.
American public housing.
Yes.
Because we're saying, okay, we're comfortable with this because it doesn't compete. It's the same thing. They're okay with Medicaid.
They're okay with ghettos and unestablished medical care and that, as long as it's crap. You know?
So long as it's not competing with them. What I'm saying is we need a vision where the public is competing with the private sector in this regard.
Yeah.
And when we do that, hey, we're the ones that get to do all the zoning and permitting as well, right?
Yeah.
So if the public is competing with the private sector, we can, if we do this right, outcompete them. But the idea is we want high quality housing that has value.
Yeah.
What we're building in the end has value for the government. It's not just a service. Right. It has value for the government, but that's how we ultimately bring down the cost of housing is not by subsidizing housing. It's by outcompeting the private sector. I know.
Right.
Now everybody knows. Now everybody knows where I am.
Yeah. You know? No. Who opposes that? I mean, aside from capitalists, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, no. I think there's a fear because when the government intervenes through regulation, right, we often do see poor outcomes.
No,
right?
because of the rules that are in place to say we're only going to support it because those projects, they were in redlined ghetto districts, essentially. They were set aside. They're not connected to anything. And then they were only supported financially, infrastructure-wise, for a period of time. And then it fell to the states or municipalities to take care of.
Well, I even think when there's good intention from the government, regulation often fails. Okay, so let's look at Obama and the under his, I think it was it the, either way, they put in new regulations for emission standards for vehicles, right?
Yeah.
And there was a carve out for trucks.
Yeah, CARB and getting around the emissions.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we had this great plan put in place. We regulate it, right? We did this through regulation. We're like, okay, we'll just tell them they have to do it this way.
Yeah.
And then what they
do it
did,
that way.
they got a carve out for trucks.
Yeah.
And then what they did is they started marketing trucks as like your daily commuter vehicle. So this backfired on us.
Oh, yeah.
Like this regulation has hurt our infrastructure system because now everyone's driving around these giant trucks because like just embarrassingly you put trucks up on a commercial and you're like, this is the manly thing, and people like went swamp to buy them.
Yeah.
And now we have huge trucks driving around as commuter vehicles. So
single person driving them.
Right, exactly. So this attempt at regulating failed, right?
Yeah.
And so I understand people's fear with regulation. That's why what I'm talking about is I'm not talking about regulating the market.
You're just saying local initiatives.
Right. I'm saying that we compete in the market.
Yeah.
And that's an entirely different thing.
Sure.
And that is the one. That is the one that will really scare the actual capitalist, you know?
Yeah.
Because this inevitably what we're talking about is we're going to tax you more and we are going to start building housing to compete with you.
Yeah, but people,
so we're going to get you on both ends. Sorry, I know you're going to profit less.
Yeah, but there's that. I mean, that's that kind of the American mindset of it's going to be cheaper in the long run, but it's going to cost more in taxes now.
Yeah,
and I think that scares people. It's like, oh, it would be cheaper if there was a public option in healthcare, but they don't want their taxes to shoot up, even though they don't have a private premium or they aren't paying anything at all right now.
Yeah,
and they have no healthcare coverage, and they're completely screwed if anything goes wrong at all.
Yeah. So healthcare as well. Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, right. I think anyone talking about public housing, see, in that phrase, when you say public housing, you're imagining these like single-story brick houses, with a giant
or these
parking
giant
lot
towers that are
they
look like something out of a dystopian dread comic or something like that.
Yeah. No. I want to stress we want the ownership of this to be an asset for the government that increases the total
value.
Yeah. The total income that we make as a community.
And your emphasis on high quality because they also think, paper thin walls, difficult to access.
access.
Sure, yeah.
It's far from transit options, stuff like that. They're out in a bit.
Right. Here, again, with the transit options, if we are the ones that are deciding where things are being built, we have such an advantage, like a structural advantage over the private sector. And so, and I understand, while talking about all this, we are far in Colorado Springs, far from doing something like this. But I don't think that it's unimaginable that we would see this movement across the nation towards a system of governance where, you know, the people that are making the decisions, you know, some of the decisions are going to be better than others, you know, no matter who you are. But the people that are making the decisions aren't going to be the people that are in the very market that we're trying to regulate. Right.
So, no, because you bring up public housing and people, I mean, they're scared. Like, it's the idea of they already have this idea built in of what that looks like and what that is. And it's like, no, I'm not going to support that. Rails, transit, I'm not going to ever ride the bus, you know?
Sure.
Why would I do that? It's only homeless people in there and blah, 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 all the rhetoric around that.
Yeah. And shout out to the changes in our the revised statutes that allow for free public transportation during the summer and for nixing the parking requirements.
In Denver, just recently, or are you talking about for public parking minimums? Parking minimums.
Yeah. What were you talking about in Denver?
No, I was gonna say along with that, you need parking maximums, because I talked with our city planner, and they're like, okay, cool, you implement parking minimums.
Sure.
You abolish them, but then what do? They build 400 spots anyway.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, because they're just doing whatever the market says that will work in Arkansas and Kansas and Montana as well. They just have this default thing.
Yeah.
But you have to. It's a victory, but it's both sides of that. Markets. You talk a lot about markets and money and capital flowing. That's not democratic socialism, is it?
No, I think it is. So there is a joke.
Because there's a lot of people don't understand what socialism is.
Right, exactly. Sure,
yeah.
Right. And there are a lot of people in the DSA that, you know, don't like talking about markets.
And Bernie Sanders, despite him saying he is one, he is not one. He is a social democrat.
Sure. Well, so to me, socialism is public ownership of capital. That's, you know, there's no other definition to me that means anything. So saying, we're going to draw a lot of taxes and give people health care, that's not socialism. That's the government providing a service through taxes. That's just what governments have been doing since they've existed.
Yeah.
In one way or another. And so that's not socialism. Socialism is public ownership. So when I'm talking about building public housing, that is socialism, right? Because we're building up this value in capital, in housing stock, which is like inventory.
Yeah, it's a commodity.
Well, yeah, but in the way that they calculate GDP, it's like on the inventory line. But it's a value that we can build up as a government, and that then extract more value from it, right? And so again, I feel like people are so worried about this because the way it's always done is one, through regulation, which then bogs down the very market that we're trying to tap into, or two, we've seen people just throwing governments, you know, to the side through violence and taking over and having these single parties rule in the 20th century, and that just, I think, totally destroyed a lot of people's appreciation for what specifically we're talking about, right? And that's why I like to emphasize democratic socialism, right?
As opposed to authoritarian socialism, which some YouTubers will absolutely advocate for.
Some DSA members would. But democratic socialism, to me, both of those words are equally important, right? Because without democracy, if you just have socialism, well, you have single party rule. You have a situation where the people that are controlling the market are regulating it, right? It's just from the other direction. And so you end up with people that are just going to use those levers to stay in power. They're no longer trying to compete on an open market, for sure.
You get the Politburos and the red courts and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. What we saw in what would it be, like the 70s out of Sweden. I know people always point to that Nordic model, even though they were on a better track earlier. But this idea where the government isn't going to win the day by seizing property. We're not going to win the day by overthrowing democracy.
Yeah.
We're going
the right are into that right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we're going to win the day by investment and investing into public ownership of portions of the economy and try to grow that sector as much as we can. And we have to continue to win through persuasion. I know people don't like that idea. They like the idea of seizing power. But without democracy, it all falls apart anyway. We've seen it again and again.
Yeah, people, especially the activated types, do have this idea of if the only way we're going to get this done is if we go full speed ahead with the glorious revolution and do all that stuff. And it's like, no, there's easier ways.
Yeah, people dream of revolution. I certainly don't. I would.
John Jarrell does not dream of revolution. There we go.
Revolution is frightening to me because it'll be violent. We won't know who is going to end up in power. The French Revolution ended up with Napoleon in power.
Yeah.
The Soviet Revolution ended up with Stalin in power.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I just, so if after all the violence, after all the starvation, right?
Yeah.
After all of that, this huge turmoil for children to have to live through, the elderly,
the trauma.
The trauma. And then in the end, it's like, well, it might be better though. And it sure is fun to think about, so I'm not a revolutionist. That's for sure.
How long has this been in your mind? Like, how long has this been your track? Or was there a point where you were radicalized?
Oh, was there a point when I was radicalized?
Yeah.
I think
Who radicalized you, John?
I think I was radicalized in high school.
Okay.
Just by knowing so many people. So I grew up in a household, for example, where it was explicitly stated some racist things, let's say, and things like that, and a very right wing, Rush Limbaugh. I read Rush Limbaugh when I was in middle school. I enjoyed his books. Now I know he didn't even write them, but
that makes sense.
Yeah,
he doesn't seem like he was a literate fellow.
But I enjoyed the books when I was in middle school. But then in high school, I think I just got to know so many people that were the exact people that that I was being told things about.
Yeah.
And then of course you mix in a little bit of alcohol and weed to kind of get the
socialist, the philosophy 101 going,
to get yourself in a lot of situations.
Sure.
In a very kind of like
exposure.
Right, a very comfortable way. And I will say this, when you are the only white man in a room, you'll hear things that you're not going to hear
anywhere else.
If there's, you're like, oh, we have our token, you've really got to put yourself out there, and I think that's what radicalized me, is just getting to know people of different races, of different genders, of different sexualities, and being like, wow, this is actually really fun. I don't know what the hell my dad was talking about, so
no need for the hate and the prejudice, right? Yeah. But that's what carried you on, and then you actually wanted to get
well.
Then
I read the Communist Manifesto while I was high when I was like 17 or 18. And you can read that thing front to back in one sitting.
Okay, that's easy enough.
And while I was reading it, I just want to be clear. This is how I always am. I'm like, oh, I disagree.
Yeah.
You if you were alive today, you'd know that this and that or whatever. So I don't want to act like But yeah, no, it's like. It's a really motivating work to read at that age, and I think that it opens you up to the fact that there are other people out there who are going to be like extremely passionate about this stuff. I have found though that getting it as involved as I am, that passion can be frustrating too, because I think some people they like see Marx writing as if he was literally predicting the future. He's a writer. He's like an artist.
He's thinking.
He's an artist, though. He's not like. I guess you could say he's an economist as well, but you could argue economists are artists even today. But he's not. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't. I don't know. He wasn't. He's just. I think people have read that and they got excited by it, and then they took it like they read the Bible and they were shown the way, the future.
Yeah, because unfortunately,
that is frustrating to me
sometimes. It's got sometimes as that culty vibe, but it's also so firm in ideology that it's like you can cut from a lot of different stuff in here.
Yeah. And I think if I was alive in 1917, I would have been over here in the United States. I would have been so excited about what was happening in Petersburg and Moscow. You know, I would have been so down. Now we have 100+ years to look back on
and say that didn't go quite right.
Right. And say, oh, okay, you know, the world doesn't work exactly how we predict it's going to work. A joke that I make often is, you know, people that are hunter gatherers are not like, do you think one day we're going to start growing our own crops and start building pyramids?
Yeah. Right.
You know, and yet people all around the world did it. Right. And so,
inevitably.
Right. And we can see that it's very hard. We know that there's like a huge structure to society, but it's very difficult for us to see ahead what like the next step is going to look like.
Yeah.
I think it's very obvious what our next step is, but then what that's going to look like, what the world is going to look like, nobody knows. That's the fear that a lot of people have of socialism, I think. Is there an end game that is like that we are now in the post-capitalist? I don't think so.
Democrat.
Well,
because I think people get hung up on this is what the end game is supposed to look like, but also on the inverse side, we're none of us are in a pure capitalist society either.
Right.
So it's like it's hard to imagine that, especially with all the decades of Cold War propaganda saying that all that's evil and not even worth thinking about.
I will say the reification of capitalism in the working class is really ironic. Anyway, some people will get that, you know. So, but yeah. So no, I don't think that there's a clear end. I think again, this is why the democracy part is so important, because we're going to be in a constant struggle. Leaders that get into power, they're going to start focusing on that power. We're going to need to replace them. You know, Chuck Schumer, and we're just, you know, there's never going to be a time where it's like, oh, we've won the day. We got the right people in power now. Yeah,
it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
We solved
it. We got the good guys.
Yeah, exactly.
We got the good guys in power. We won. Yeah, that's
that was such a good fight.
Yeah, exactly. That's not going to happen. So
no, let's get the wine.
Yeah. So it's an endless fight. You know, it's and maybe I'm wrong, and one day there will be a utopia. Okay, you know, I don't see how that contradicts saying, why don't we not have a revolution that kills millions of people today, though? You know, that one day there might be a utopia, you know. So I think that, no, it's going to be a constant struggle. Things will improve. We can get the right people in power. We got to make sure we keep labor activated and strong and involved in politics. We should be drawing our candidates from that machinery as well. It doesn't have to all be businessmen and lawyers. And
what?
Yeah, I know. And it's gonna
weird.
It's a long fight, and I think will be my generation's fight. Is what I'm talking about now. And then what comes next, I don't know. It might be cooler. Probably will be.
So what you're saying is that Colorado Springs City Council should get a pay raise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have to hit it every single episode.
Oh, no.
We have to do it.
No, that makes complete sense, because if city council were paid, then we could be running candidates like Mariah, who, by the way, if we had just started running like literally 10 days earlier, would have won. Those final ballots that were coming in against Brandy, they were 3-2 for us. To the decimal, oddly enough. It kept being right around 3-2. But so we had the first drop, and then all the other ballots that were counted, we were catching up, and it came down to the exact ratio. For every 2 votes for her, we got Mariah got 3. Yeah, and that is, you know, we started the campaign a little late. If this was a paid position, it would be easier to build up a infrastructure for young people, to get involved and get on that. Yeah, the pay on city council structurally, whether intentionally or not, is designed to keep wealthy older people,
of course,
as the decision makers in the city.
Yeah, well, let's wrap up here. Why, after all of this said, did you want to run for this volunteer position for this local party and try and convert it into a socialist utopia for all of us here?
You know, first of all, of course, there's like this nagging guilt that I've always had. You know, that am I doing enough? Yeah, I was born into, I wasn't wealthy, but I was definitely born into, like, on the global scale for sure, like a huge amount of privilege, you know. But what it really comes down to now is I love beating the Republicans just so much. You know, it feels so good getting that district redrawn, you know?
Yeah.
Winning V-Hill seat in 2022, the complete flip that we had in 2018 of the state government, all of it just feels so good that, you know, I what I do, because if you think too much about the guilt, if you think too much about how when we fail, it affects people, right?
Yeah.
Like children may literally die if the Democrats lose elections.
I know Kamala Harris and all that after that.
Right. It sounds dramatic, but it's not. So that is overwhelming for me. Like a lot of other people, that's like what motivates them.
Does it keep you up at night?
No. So that's what I'm saying is I just focus on the game, you know, and I want to win it. And so I want to beat the Republican Party. And so the wins that I have got, they keep me going. Like I still think back to them all the time, you know? And I think about the more I'm going to accumulate. And that sort of like puts blinders up. So I'm not thinking about long-term goals and socialism and how every failure that we've had has a material change in the world. I just don't think about those things.
Yeah,
you know?
and everything that comes out of Washington every other day.
Exactly. I just think about how I beat the Republicans. I'm going to continue to beat them. I'm smarter than they are here in town. I've outflanked them over and over again, and I'm going to continue to do it, and we're going to continue to take these seats from them.
So what I'm hearing is you don't have brunch with your counterpart at the Republicans every Friday.
No, it's fine. I'm cordial. I'm cordial with.
Okay, you'll have the melon, the cantaloupe,
and there's some Republicans in Steve Schleicher, the
county recorder.
Yeah, the clerk and recorder.
Yeah.
An incredibly important politician here in town that's been helping to keep us out of the grasp of the Trump administration, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't want to make it sound like, you know, it's some kind
totally
of
anti.
That's why I think about it as a competition, you know?
Yeah.
So back when I was playing sports in high school, you know,
what was your sport?
I played soccer and tennis.
Okay.
But when someone's out there on the field with you, they're your enemy. You know, you're going to talk shit to them.
Yeah.
You're going to beat them, and you're going to enjoy beating them.
That's right.
But then after the game, you know, it's
like, hey, let's go get some beers.
It's a game. And I
Not
understand this is not a game. I get it. But by thinking about it that way, it keeps me motivated, and it keeps me from getting too like depressed over the state of the world today.
Yeah. John, how can people get involved? Where can they get more information about the Democratic Party? What can they I'm activating, I think. What do I do?
So one way is our office is open 10 to 2 Monday through Friday. So you can call, stop by, go to our website and sign up at epcodemparty.org, and someone will reach out to you. But I'll say, since this will be coming out in the middle of a really important election year, the most important one of your life.
Ever, yes.
Yeah, exactly. This is it. This is the one.
This is the event.
Yes.
John Jarrell, Sunday. Actually, Tuesday. Exactly. Bring your ballot down to the box.
But there will be a million opportunities. There'll be so many candidates and so many events going on that that's how I would get LinkedIn rather than just walking into the office, which you can, you know.
Yeah, you can.
But just come to a rally and talk to us at our booth or go to one of the candidates' events. If you see me, talk to me. Don't, give me too hard of a time about some of the things I might have said today. But I mean, that's the way to get LinkedIn is to just show up and be a part and get involved in caucus. So when this comes out, we'll be a couple months out from the March caucus, which is where you have to be a registered Democrat for 20 something days. But it's a way to get linked in to a legally defined role in the party, where you have a role in determining what the party does, and you're in a great position. If you like the vision I'm sharing today, it's a huge opportunity to join me in transforming politics in Colorado Springs and El Paso County.
What's your favorite ice cream?
My favorite, I just chocolate,
Just straight chocolate?
Well, no. I mean, anything with chocolate in it, though.
So you're like Rocky Road?
Rocky Road, chocolate chip, chocolate ice cream. Just, if it doesn't have chocolate, I'm like, why am I even bothering?
Yeah, no French vanilla weird shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy the other desserts, but it's like if I'm going to eat a dessert, if I'm going to indulge, I might as well go all in.
And eat nothing
chocolate.
else.
Yeah.
John Jarrell, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
See, wasn't that a great conversation? I told you. So yeah, only one more episode after this. It's with Brian Tryon, co-founder of Shutter and Strum, world-class photographer, obviously the founder of the Garfield Gallery under a community prep school, incredible artist, curator in that. But yeah, look forward to that next Monday. All right, let's go to the credits. Love your family, love your friends, love your city, free Palestine. Let's get out of here.
Badly Needed and Long Overdue is part of the Studio 809 Community Podcast Network. These interviews are recorded at Studio 809 in the Next Us, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. Be sure to check out all the other fine podcasts at studio809podcasts.com, where you can find your new favorite local podcast. This show is produced by myself and Dave Gardner, with video directed by Dave Gardner. Show music is by Injection Site Reaction. Thank you guys. I'd like to give a thank you to Catherine Chukas and Ken Schauer, and a special thank you to Kelly Karnetsky for helping fund this second season of Binlo on Indiegogo.